Hey, everybody. How's it going? I hope you're doing well this Friday afternoon. It's technically afternoon for me. It's 1 o'clock now. Andy, how's it going, dude?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Hope you are.
Good.
Welcome, everybody.
Oh yeah, we barely made it under the wire. I I was out and about grabbing lunch and got back like just in time. Andy was getting nervous, DMing me on Twitter like, "Hey, it's like 4 minutes till we start. You gonna be
It's like might be flying solo today. Don't know where John is.
right? So it's been a busy week, man. It's been like just a lot going on, with the regular day job. It's been busy every single day. So,
I've been
but
pulling double duty, so I can definitely sympathize
yeah.
with that. I got day job stuff in the morning, and I'm prepping for 365 EduCon conference in Chicago next week. Uh,
Mhm.
so lots and lots of work, morning, afternoon, and evening. But this one's going to be
Yeah.
fun, and I know next week's going to be fun as well.
It's gonna be crazy, because like Ignite's coming up in 2 weeks. So it's like gonna be even more wild here in what is it 2 weeks or 3 weeks? I think we're 3 weeks away from Ignite.
Yeah, I think it's 3 weeks
So
out.
yeah. Daryl's joining us way early here from New Zealand. He's here for the pre-ignite party. Yeah, we thought that this would be a fun episode to go through and talk about like some of the like bundle up a lot of the what's new in Microsoft Teams as well as kind of look forward to Ignite, which Andy, you and I were talking yesterday with all the like Viva news that dropped yesterday is like what could
What's
they
left?
have for Ignite now? Like
Yeah,
there
like
was there was a lot of stuff yesterday that came out all at
I still
once.
haven't gotten through all of those announcements that they made for Viva yesterday. I think there were like 6
I
separate
haven't
announcements.
either.
It seems like there was a couple of
Yeah.
new products that they announced as well, and if they're announcing that yesterday, like, what are they gonna announce
Mhm.
at Ignite? Like, I had to
Yeah.
change one of my predictions because of that.
Oh, really? Yeah, so today we're gonna end out the stream talking about, like, predictions. What do we think might happen at Ignite this year? What might get announced? And, mine's all a little bit of safe guesses, I think, based off of, like, educated guesses, if you will, of, like, what we've seen in the past. But what's exciting about the Ignite time is what new thing is gonna come out that, like, nobody anticipated, right? Like Loop last year. I think that was the thing that, like, I there's no way I could have guessed that, oh, they're gonna completely restructure next gen collaboration into this, like, anatomic unit called Loop components, and, like, make a whole product out of it, out of something that they were doing in Fluid Framework. So, it'll be exciting to see what surprise we all get, whenever there's a few things that could probably be expected. So,
Yeah, I think that one caught a lot of us off guard, and that one was really welcome, like, to see the
yeah.
evolution and collaboration. I know there's some really cool stuff that I would like to see, with Loop at some point, so I'm looking forward
Mhm.
to maybe some Ignite announcements, around that. That would be just really, really awesome. I know
Yeah,
there are
I
a
hope
few
we hear
people,
more about
Daryl,
it.
that are really excited, about that as well,
Yeah,
or
he's been
about
waiting
Loop
as
as a
well. I
whole.
hear we've got hey, like, we showed it off once, and then there hasn't been that much, and I know, like, Daryl, he's showed it off more than anybody I've seen, and, I know he's chomping at the bit for, like, new stuff to talk about, new stuff to show. So, maybe we'll get a little bit of that here in a couple weeks. Um Yeah, I agree with this one. Like, I don't think there's gonna be anything else for Viva. I think so too. I feel like it it seemed like it coincided with there were 3 things that happened, right? That are kind of like lined up as far as like marketing. There was the Viva announcements dropped at the same day that there's like a new work trend index, right? So
Mhm.
like the work lab stuff started getting going again. And then yeah, it's a new season of the work lab podcast um, with uh, with Jared Spataro as like the guest, right, kicking it off, and it's kind of like talking about new loop. So it all plays into each other, right, as like one big like announcement. It is interesting, like they didn't wait a couple weeks to do all that at Ignite. So I wonder if they did it as its own thing so that it didn't steal the thunder from something else, or that something else wasn't so big that everybody talked about it instead of Viva. So
Have
sounds like they're
you
going to have a
read
busy fall.
any of from the Jared Spataro hybrid work um, content that they released yesterday?
I haven't. No, I've got the podcast in my podcast app um to listen to this weekend. Is like 30 minutes long. I always really like those work lab podcasts. I listen to every single one of them.
I started
Um
reading that last night. I didn't listen to the
mhm,
podcast, just the article. And for those that are joining in on YouTube, I'll put that in the comments there. But like,
mm,
there's some really interesting um, takeaways and analysis that they've done around the future of the workplace. There were a few things that
yeah.
like really jumped out at me. Around the numbers and the percentage and like how things have grown, but one that
Mhm,
really stuck out with me was the increase of online meetings, and
mhm,
that hasn't plateaued and started to go down. Even like some people consider it post pandemic, but
yeah.
even as some people are returning to the office, the number of virtual meetings and the telemetry that Microsoft is tracking on that has not started to plateau or to go back down,
Mhm,
implying that hybrid work, virtual meetings, and so forth are here to stay. There were some really eye-opening numbers in that. Again, I'll put it in the YouTube
mhm,
comments. But if you haven't read it, it's really good. There's some really good
yeah.
information in there. The title of it is hybrid, the WTI Pulse Report. But I'll get that
Okay.
in the YouTubes.
Yeah, I need to read up on that stuff and catch up. I saw that I think there was another blog. A lot of the headlines I saw said that the CEO is talking about this. I don't know if it was like a blog that Satya wrote himself, but it sounded like the sentiment was like hybrid work is here to stay, obviously, but like hybrid, like we're not doing it right, and hopefully like some of this stuff is is supposed to like build a better package around like a more holistic view of hybrid work, because I totally resonate with some of the things about like productivity anxiety, and like if you're isolated, especially being in a new job, you're isolated from other people, and like am I doing the right things? Am I doing as good as the people around me? Like
Right.
when you're not physically around them, you get stuck in your mind a little bit about like, do I matter? So uh, I think a lot of that will probably resonate really well with me, is just like being in that spot right now in my career. So
Right.
be interesting to read.
Yeah, because you and I both kind of onboarded to
Yeah.
new organizations right around,
Yeah,
the
because you
beginning.
started in like January, right?
Yeah, yeah, and, like,
Yeah, and I
being
was in
in a
April.
hybrid workplace, I had worked and contracted with this organization for years prior, so,
Mhm.
there was familiarity and relationship, but, like, just sitting in my office and, like, trying to figure out, "Okay, what do I do next?" And, like,
Mhm.
that was a little bit challenging, and, like, am I being productive? Um am I doing the right thing? As you were saying, like,
Yeah.
that was, there were some times the imposter syndrome was really setting in, and it's like, okay, what
Oh,
next?
yeah.
But things that you find your footing after a little while, and you figure out in that online virtual space like where to go next, and kind of go from
Yeah.
there. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge in the hybrid workplace.
Yeah. So, heavy topic to start out with, but,
Oh no,
we
we
we,
start out light.
yeah, well, and something that I don't know a lot about, Viva stuff. There's a lot. The good thing is there's a ton of MVPs who have really latched on to Viva. So people that are building like content around Viva and seeing it in the real world from like either consulting practices or what they see in the enterprise. So I need to put my learning hat on and learn more about it, you know. But yeah, interesting topic nonetheless. What we were thinking we would do today, though, is kind of bundle up like what's new in Microsoft Teams. It's a little bit more in my comfort zone anyway than Viva is. And I like this stuff because in my new role as an enterprise architect, I'm not so like in the weeds anymore, right? Of like being just waist deep in like what's coming next and how does this feature work, and showing people what it does and knowing the roadmap like in my sleep, I'm a little bit more removed from that. It's like looking at a holistic view of the enterprise and where the enterprise is going. So I really like these types of moments when we can slow down for a second, go through a deep dive session. And with this one, I feel like we've missed a lot. Maybe missed isn't the right word, but there's been just like a lot of stuff has happened over the summer that didn't get a whole ton of press. So I thought, let's go through just kind of like a demo palooza of what little kind of sub features have come out, improvements on things like that, and explore them and demo how they work, you know?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the idea that we had today. I'm gonna turn off my camera on myself because I keep looking at myself. Um, but we had a good idea like right before we started our live stream is we've put this into a little bit of a structure. So we've got an actual agenda here to go through, like remind ourselves like what we're going to talk about in these little kind of bite-sized demos. Um, and we threw them into some slides so we could follow along and like kind of keep pace. But like let's do it in PowerPoint Live. So we're going to do everything in a PowerPoint Live in a Teams meeting today, so that we're in the meeting and we can show you exactly where the buttons are, what they do, all that type of stuff. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun to just go through and see what works. Hopefully everything works. So
Yeah, a
my
lot
screen
of
keeps going
incremental
on right here.
changes that kind of added up to the totality of today's event. We were going through and brainstorming, and I know we just kept coming up with like, oh, there's this one we haven't talked about yet, but none of these have like
Mhm.
really like the topics we kind of focused in on just prior to this were like, hey, this is something we could spend an hour and a half on easily. And then it's like here we have a whole bunch
Mhm.
of, I don't want to say lesser features, but the combination I think is gonna make for a really fun little presentation.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump on in and just go to the first one, which is like pretty small, but also kind of like a big deal for people who really want it. And that's the idea of pop out content. So you might have seen in your meetings now, and this is rolled out to Ring 4. Like I've seen this in my regular corporate
Mhm.
environment, which is not like early at all. Um, right here at the top, I guess I'll have to hit this button. You've got this button now called pop out. So at the top, kind of in the middle, but a little bit off to the right hand side, you can click pop out when there's content being shared. And if you click on that, now it's going to show this this separate window. So the content is in its own window and Andy is back here in the background. So that would be my gallery. There's his OBS camera. And this is really nice because like I technically have two screens on this device, even though you only see one of them. But I can put my content over on one side and I could put my gallery over on the other. And I've got this handy little layout tool. It's called Magnet on Mac OS. And now I've got Andy side by side with my content so that I can, go through and I can step through to the next thing, go back, go forward, and I see like a nice gallery. So I could put him over on another window and have my nice big wide screen for my content.
Yeah,
So
for
I think
me,
that's really nice.
yeah, for me, where I really like using that is when I'm in a meeting with a
Mhm.
number of people and they still have their cameras on. So rather than having all the small
Yeah.
pictures along the top of the gallery view, kind of like if you bring up my screen, kind of
Mhm.
how I'm seeing it right here.
Yeah, it
Um,
kinda gets a rid of, like, having that ribbon across
yeah,
the top. Yeah, like what you see right now.
yeah, and like I've got a nice big monitor, secondary monitor that I use, but like having
Mhm.
that rather than small tiles there, I can put it in the large gallery and put it side by side with the content, and then I can see people, and it feels not quite like I'm in person, but I do see more facial
Mhm.
expressions, and I feel like I'm more attentive because if somebody talks, it's a little bit bigger than the smaller thing, and it's just side
Yeah.
by side. You can organize it however you want.
Mhm. Yeah, Phil says he loves it. It's his favorite new feature right now. So, I personally, I don't use it a whole lot, but, I have had times where, like, there's such small text on the screen that it's really helpful to just, blow that up and kinda get rid of, the people because I put my people underneath my camera. So like what you're looking at right now on my screen is technically right here underneath my camera, so that I'm facing the right direction. But I can put that other like content that I'm not looking at, or the gallery I may not be looking at, over here, and I can focus like my attention to where my camera generally is located. So I think Daryl kind of does the same thing. He says he puts the gallery video feed under his camera and then goes and puts his content over off to the side, kind of like what we explained there. Because like
Yeah.
if I did that on my screen right now, I would move content over, and then I would put you nice and big right here so that I could glance down, look at you, but I'm still facing my camera. And because I'm wearing glasses right now, you probably don't see my gaze go down to where you are. You know, it kind of still looks like I'm looking at my camera. But if I look at my content now, I'm looking off to the left hand side, and it looks like I'm not paying attention or something. So I think
Yeah.
that's a pretty nice little addition. And to get back out of this, you just close that window right there, and it just merges it all back into the same window. What's interesting about this though, Andy, is see it reloaded my PowerPoint Live,
Mhm.
because I've hidden the presenter view so you guys can see it as big as possible. But when I go back into pop out, it reset my view
Yeah.
back to that presenter view. And then if I go back in, it's like back at the presenter view. So I have to like go change it back. So that there's a little quirk, I guess, that we find. So um anything else on pop out content that you can think of?
No, I think
It's
it's
pretty
pretty
it's pretty much
straightforward.
what it is.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
just one of those things you don't know it's there until you know it's there. I know I saw it in the blogs,
Yeah.
a couple months ago when they were talking about it. I'm like, I'll never use that. And then as soon as I saw it in
Mhm.
the meeting live, I was like, I have to push that button. And then I'm like, oh, that's actually really helpful. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things to be celebrated by a certain niche of people, you know. Um so meeting Q&A is the next one. Meeting Q&A launched, it was probably June or July, I think, is whenever it like actually hit general availability. But this is out now. You saw like the preview of it in it was right around the Ignite timeframe. They announced it. They said it was coming in preview by the end of the year. I think it was like November or December when it actually came out in preview. And it was as a separate meeting application. Now, when it has hit GA, they've rolled it into the meeting options. So that's an important thing to call out. Is it used to be you had to go up here to apps, and you had to click on apps, and then you would like scroll through and you would find something called Q&A. That's not where it's located anymore. Now it is in your meeting options. So instead, you're going to go to more right here, and then you're going to go to your meeting options, like the third item down. Click on that, and then I can turn on Q&A for this particular meeting. It helps if I click on the menu item. So down here near the bottom, there's your enable Q&A. Flip that switch on, and then go ahead and hit save. And now we're going to see a Q&A button shows up right there. There it is, up at the top. So I I don't know how you feel about this, Andy. I personally kind of view I liked it as a meeting app myself. I know most of the feedback I heard during like kind of the early like let's look at it in tap meetings, most people were saying like I, I wanted in meeting options because that's where the options are. I saw it as like it's something you're adding to your meeting, you're bolting it on, kind of
Right.
like polls, you know. So I liked it as a meeting app. I think it's a little bit more hidden and lost. I'd be curious to see what you think and what our viewers think about that, if they prefer one or the other.
I can see it both ways. Like having as an apple on the top, I think kind of made it we were
Mhm.
building muscle memory. Like you want to add a poll, go to the add an app. You want to add Q&A, go to add an app. So if you want to add to the meeting,
Yeah.
you add that. But I also see it from the other side of view. When I set up a meeting, I'm conditioned to now send out the meeting invite, then go back into meeting options, and I can make adjustments for who can bypass the lobby, who my co-presenters are going to be, mics and cameras. Oh, there's Q&A down at the bottom. Do I need that
Yeah.
for this meeting or this webinar? So like I can see muscle memory from both sides. For me, it really doesn't matter one way or another. It's just you have to remember
Yeah.
where
Yeah,
where it
just
is
you
to
gotta know where
activate
it's
it.
at, you know? Yeah, once you learn it, it is what it is. So, Phil has a good question here about, does anybody know if Q&A works with external participants? I'm pretty sure that it does, right? I mean, you're external right now in this meeting.
Correct.
You see Q&A and you can add a question. Are you able to do that? I flipped it over to your screen.
1 second.
So I'm the host. I'm the organizer of this particular meeting, and Andy's asking a question. We're like, is this working? So he has submitted his question. I throw this back up on my side. There it is. So from Andy Honeycutt, who is external to this organization, I see, hey, is this live on YouTube? And I can go ahead, I can upvote it, and I can say, yep. And there's 10 people watching right now. So we do that. I can go in, I can mark that as a correct answer. So Andy or Phil, it does look like it does work. At least this isn't technically in public preview right now. So, I mean, maybe, but I think this has been out since like June or July. So I would expect that this
It-
is the experience that you'll have.
So it went
So
live July of 2022, according to the roadmap.
July. Okay. Yeah, I guessed correctly. Um, one thing to call out here that I like about Q&A versus like the live meeting question and answer. This one, which is backed by Yammer, that's kind of the engine behind here of it. Like you don't need Yammer. The person doesn't have to be licensed for Yammer. It's not in Yammer, but it's powered by the technology of Yammer. And one thing that we inherit by doing that is we have the ability to mark something as the best answer. So that's something that I really like about it, as well as having more diverse reactions. So you'll notice that like these are the reactions that you see in Yammer, right? Oh, and I can't like scroll up and see it. So I can do more. I can celebrate, where with Teams live events, it's just the ability to have like a thumbs up is all you can do, and then you can sort by the most reacted to as well. I think we can do that up here, right? Um,
You might need a
I
couple.
don't see the sorting. Yeah, you might need a couple questions, I guess, to be able to see it. The settings, though, this is important to call out. If I open it back up, these settings, you also have um, a little bit more power now in what you can do in the Q&A. So when you open this up, you can turn on asking new questions. That's kind of like in a Teams live event, used to enable questions or disable it. You can check a box that says allow people to ask questions. You can turn off the ability to respond to questions. If this is checked like it is right now, then anybody who's in the meeting, they can have Q&A up and they can respond to each other, which is helpful if you want to, crowdsource information and maybe there's somebody who knows an answer. That's great. Leave it checked. If you're in like a town hall scenario or like, something where you want a little bit more moderation on it, then you could uncheck that. Now only the person who's a presenter has the ability to respond to that question. You could turn on and off anonymous questions so that somebody could ask something in a safe, anonymous environment. Maybe you're talking about like mental health or something like that. You want to leave anonymous on. And then at the bottom, this is the ability to moderate a attendee conversation. And if I turn that on, then now you see this new tab popped up at the top. So now you have something that's published or in review. So if Andy were to add a new question, it would go into this like little queued up area where we could review the question first and decide if we want to publish it to everybody or not. So you have a lot more control over that. I agree with the defaults. Like if you're in a meeting, it's supposed to be interactive and it's supposed to be, like an open environment. So like post anonymously, that's default turned off. Everybody knows who's asking a question, and you don't have moderation by default. So you can elevate up to a more, prescriptive environment, but out of the box, you're just a Q&A in a meeting, it's simple. So
I do like the
um,
moderation though for using Teams webinars as a town hall based event. That
mhm.
way my team can gather a whole bunch of questions, and then we can softball some questions to the leadership who happens to be answering at that particular time. So the moderation, I
Mhm.
think, definitely has a use case. I'm glad that it's there, and we have the
Especially,
ability
yeah,
to review and
if
dismiss.
you have like a presenter who gets distracted by
Yeah.
them coming in and you don't want you want to hold the questions till the end, go ahead, leave Q&A open, moderate it though so that people aren't distracted from the message, and then you can do Q&A, you can just dump them all at the end. So, yeah, I see that
I,
especially in like an educational environment maybe.
yeah. I also
Yeah.
like that it's not just Q&A. I posted specifically in there, the one you're highlighting right now, there's discussion as well. So from the
Mhm.
drop down, when you ask a question, there's a drop down to the right,
Yeah.
you can say discussion.
Mhm.
And so you can start a discussion. Not that I'm asking a question, but like I want to facilitate discussion around this particular topic and get more in
Mhm.
depth feedback and engagement from users. And tying into one of the comments I think yeah Daryl made. There's the threaded replies, so you can
Uh-huh.
reply to the main topic, and then you can reply to the topics underneath it, or the replies underneath
Yep.
it. I think that's really great for those
Exactly.
discussions.
It's it's like it's a very like community type of feature, right?
Mhm.
Because as the question here, like you can reply to somebody else's question and there can be threads like Daryl pointed out. That's awesome. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, as Daryl says here, it builds on that natural conversation because you can have a back and forth between people in the meeting, and it's not like the chat where it's just flat. You can right click and you can reply to a specific chat message, but then like it doesn't create like its own kind of like containerized area. Q&A, I really like that each one of these is a self-contained unit, you know? I think that's a nice way to organize a chat, especially when you have a lot of people in a meeting. So,
And they've also, like, if you drill into it just a little bit, when you go to like
mhm,
type your response, there is an ellipsis, and you can do some interesting things. You can do bold, you can
mhm.
do italics, you can do an ordered list, you can do an unordered
Oh,
list.
yeah. Yeah, if I start typing in here, then I can say, "Hey, this is neat," and then drop that down. I can add a link. I could do lists even. Um, the only thing that's missing here, which probably like would break everything, is a loop component. Like add a loop component in there. But then you'd end up with like Phil's problem about like, well, but can an external person do a loop? No, they can't. So that breaks Q&A. So I see why maybe that's not there, but maybe that's where it's headed. Who knows? So
And before you go away from that, go back to one of the
yeah.
responses on the meatball menu in the upper right hand corner.
Uh-huh.
So there's your
Yeah.
pin conversation, but also close
So I can
conversation.
delete, close conversation, pin, do all that cool stuff. Yeah. Yeah, this is nice. I have not to be honest, I have not seen anyone use this yet in my day job. In my regular corporate job, I haven't seen anybody use it yet. So, I need to kinda drive a little bit internally like, "Hey, we should try out this feature," especially if we're doing like, it's not technically a town hall, so it's not a live event, but it's like a top of mind type of thing. There's a few leaders who do like a team's top of mind. Here's what's on the director's mind for the past 2 weeks, and I would maybe recommend like, "Hey, turn on Q&A. Let's try that out, see how it goes." So maybe somebody from that team's watching this in the future and be like, "Hey, we're
And
gonna do that."
interestingly enough,
So
I'm on the complete opposite of that spectrum. I've done a number of office
mhm,
hours and trainings on this week because we have people that are actually implementing it, and they wanted to test a couple of things before they roll it out to some larger
mhm,
meetings coming up in the next few weeks. So my organization, people are actively using it. They're seeking it out to actively use it.
uh-huh, yeah. Daryl has a question here, like, how many meetings have I attended recently where they're still looking for questions in the stream of chat? Um, they're a little bit like I think the chat gets ignored a lot, to be honest, where somebody will put a question in there and the person who's running the meeting doesn't see it. They're not aware of it. And somebody else comes in and says, "Hey, Tiffany had a great question on the chat. What do you think about this thing? They have to like remind the person of the question. So there's a little bit of that in a lot of like, our other meetings, like Microsoft community type meetings where there's like a ton of people in and they're all doing like, hey, from Germany, hey, from Australia, and it's like just this huge flood, which is, it's fun. I like seeing where everybody's like coming from and it's like this global audience. But when somebody asks a question in that string of chat, yeah, you got the Microsoft person just scrolling through the chat trying to find a question that pops out. Separating that, I think, is a good structural thing to do. I think we all just kind of need a little bit more practice in remembering to do it. And it needs to work very reliably, because otherwise, if somebody puts it in there and then you have like a guest problem or somebody doesn't see it, then that'll be the last time they use it. So it's got to be reliable too. But
It can
I
get
just got to remember that it's there.
definitely practice with it, like and try to have people hit you with a fire hose of questions while you're practicing in it. And if you're going to use it for some like larger events, a few hundred attendees, you want to have like multiple people kind of moderating that Q&A and kind of like, I'm going to get this question and, publish
Yeah.
and then answer, kind of have like a workflow to it. My first
Yeah.
experience, like really using Q&A, was actually at Microsoft Ignite when they announced the webinars. I was doing the MVP support for that session and answering questions
Yeah.
during the live event. And man, it was a fire hose, and like figuring out like who was going to publish like which question and respond to it was just
Yeah.
kind
Who
of
was going to take what? I was on
Yeah.
one of those sessions too. I think you took one, I took the other,
Yeah.
as like the ask the experts type person. Those
Yeah.
are fun. I really like doing them, but man, it's interesting to see just
It
like
was
the flood coming
stressful.
in, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So get some practice with it. Like have, just within your team,
yeah.
get 10 people to join in the meeting and have 5 of you moderating and 5 of you just rapid fire
Mhm.
asking questions and like responding, so you can kind of get used to how the UI works and and the workflow associated with it. Publish, respond, pin to top, and really make sure that
Yeah.
you build in that that foundation with it.
Yeah. I think the last thing to cover with this feature before we move on is what happens after the Q&A is over. This is a great question. Can you add to it? Can you respond to it? Because that's kind of one of the Yammer superpowers, right? Is if you do a live event in Yammer, the Q&A is in that Yammer community. So if somebody asks a question because they watched it in another time zone 6 hours later, it's a Yammer post, so the person can respond to it. It's wonderful because you're breaking out of that time zone constraint. So what happens in a meeting if it's live? If it's a live Q&A, but afterwards, can I follow up? So I think maybe a good way to explore this, Andy, is let's go ahead and end this meeting, and then we'll see what the tab looks like in here. So I'm going to go ahead and just kick Andy out. I'm going to kill our meeting, and then let's bring up the Teams interface here. So yeah, sorry, Andy, kick you out there. So where you get to this after the meeting is over is you're going to go to your Teams calendar. You're going to click this little icon to expand the meeting out to a full screen. So I'm in the meeting details now, and then where's it at? Question and answer. It's supposed to be a tab up here, right? Breakout rooms, attendance. Did they move it under like the attendee dashboard or something? Oh, there it is. There it is. So it might have been moved, or it might not be rendering this like correctly. I would say first look for a tab called Q&A. Second, I'm finding it under the attendance tab. So go to attendance, and then okay, Daryl's saying it takes a while for the tab to appear. But under Q&A, I can click on this and like, oh, there's Andy. He's a participant. If I click on him, I can see that he asked 4 questions. I guess I can't drill into that right now. So maybe if I get out and get back into it, then maybe I'll see something for Q&A. Or as Daryl mentioned, it might show up here after a little bit. So why don't we
Circle
put
back
a pin
to it.
in this one? Yeah. So Letitia, is that how you say your name? I'm gonna star your question that's on screen right now, and we'll come back to it. So we won't like lose it in the chat. We'll do a couple more features, then we'll come back, see what the Q&A looks like if there's a new tab there. So sorry about that not rendering yet. Daryl's probably right. So I think what's going to happen is you can see the Q&A, you can export the Q&A, you glean information, but the meeting's over. I don't think you can reply to it. I think you'd have to like email that person or ping them on Teams and follow up. So any other questions or comments about Q&A here? We got big meetings. Looks like we need to, yeah, for big meetings, like, you know, maybe that would be a nice recommendation, Phil, is like, maybe there's intelligence in there during the scheduling process that maybe Microsoft could say, hey, we detect this might be a big meeting, or this might have structure to it because you've added an agenda and you've called it, like, you've got the word class in the title, you know, so like, we think this is a class, maybe you should control these options. You know, maybe there's some intelligence that could be there to help people get to the options in their meeting and do it a little bit better. So Dwayne, who says, leaves a lot to be desired. Looking forward to the new Teams web experience. So short support Q&A. Yeah, so a lot of you in the educational space, I think what you're saying, Dwayne, is like, there's so many people who they live in their Teams meeting in the web experience. They're not in the full-blown app, and there's just a huge gaps in the web experience when it comes to Q&A. Like, they need that native experience, but in the web browser. So it's something I haven't personally experienced myself because I live in the app all day, every day. So I've got that app experience. Dwayne, you're probably one of the guys that's probably used Q&A the most because you're in the education sector. So, which, thanks for watching, Dwayne, and congratulations on being an MVP. Everybody who's watching, Dwayne, I think it was last month, I believe, joined the fun club of MVPs. So welcome, dude. So let's jump back into the meeting and we can go to the next slide here. There we go. I'm back in. And then one of my favorite features, I've got my PowerPoint up right here. We're going to hit present in Teams. That sends it over to Teams. Before I click this isn't on our slides, Andy, but have you guys noticed this ribbon now? Instead of the like box that goes in the middle of the screen and the or like the purple ribbon across the top, I've noticed they're like these call outs that kind of like show in the top center. So that's another thing to be aware of, is like they're a little bit more subtle now, which some people might like, some people might not like.
I kind of preferred like the purple ribbon across the top.
I kind of did too. It was more in my face.
Yeah, it was visible from end to end, and
yeah, no matter which way they go, they're gonna make half the people mad. You know. So
why did you move my keys?
Exactly right. Which is like with meeting Q&A. Like, you moved it to the options. What the crap? So the next one is polling updates. So the poll, which is not in the meeting options, it's in the meeting apps. So you got to click the plus button to get a poll. There's been a lot of new updates in here that I believe there was a whole blog post about, like, it was in like one of the what's new, I think from July potentially, with a whole section on meeting polls. So we wanted to dive into a lot of what's available. So I'm going to add a meeting poll to this. And then, Andy, I might let you click around and see if you want to explore
Sure.
on these for a little bit. So you click the plus to add an app. The polls app is available. So we're going to add that polls app. And then now I've added this onto my meeting.
I can't do any of that.
Oh, no. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, so what does the experience look like for Andy? Let's check that out. So Andy, it didn't pop up. There wasn't a button for polls, even though he's a presenter. So we'll drive from my side here. The first thing we notice, though, is the second item on our list. The first thing we notice is there's these suggested meeting polls that popped up. So I haven't created a poll, but it gave me some recommendations right here based off of like what I've used in the past, or, just some like icebreaker type of questions. So this one is an icebreaker. This other one is collecting feedback. They've actually added like these categories to the meeting poll suggestions, which is really cool. So I can click on this and say, okay, I like this one. Let's launch this poll. The second thing that I noticed that's new is you can add emojis into your responses. So you can add an emoji in, you can do a thumbs up, you can do like stars or something like that. We'll talk about stars in a second. But I've got, great, good, just okay, not so good, and then not great. So like you've kind of got like smiley faces to a crying thing. So I'll just launch that. And then let's see, Andy, did it even pop up for you? Nope, it didn't even pop up for you, did it? I thought this worked for guests. I don't know. Yeah, it showed up in the chat for you.
Yeah, so interesting. I did get a notification. I did get an audible notification. You might have saw me jump. Remember those audio issues I was telling you about? Yeah,
Yeah.
that whatever that
Was,
sound
was that not you pressing a button when it made that
No,
noise?
did you hear that?
It sounded like a foghorn.
It sounded like a foghorn laser. Like,
That wasn't you? Did
no,
anybody hear that in the chat? Let us know if you heard that. When I launched that poll, I got like a wah wah, like some type of obnoxious noise in my ear. That's new. There's another what's new in Teams. Okay, so I'm gonna edit this thing and say crazy audible notification. That's new to polls and Teams. Yeah, I'm going to launch another one. So if I want more suggested polls, the way you can do that is this little light bulb shows up for you. So if you want to, oh, I'm not showing my screen. If you want to get another icebreaker, you can click on that little light bulb right there. And it's going to give me a bunch more suggestions again. So I can collect feedback. I can do like a ranking. So I'm going to do a rating one because this is the first bullet on our list. Is I can do now a star rating if I want to. I can control like, a 4 out of 5 stars, 3 out of 5 stars. So I'm going to do that. And then we're going to look at like what's available to us. You've got either 5 levels, or I expected to see like 5 to 10. But on this, it's a star rating. So I can have 2 stars, I can have 3 stars, 4 stars, or 5 stars. One thing I've seen this is just an aside. One thing I've seen with like people who are making polls, if you're like a person who makes surveys, I've heard a recommendation to do an even number of star rating so that people can't just ride the middle of the road. They've got to pick favorable or unfavorable. Like they've got to make a choice, So that's a recommendation. You might try 4 stars, see what happens. I believe if you go to number now, I can still only do 5. So I was wondering, like, can I get 10? Because I thought it used to be like you could have 10 if it was a number. You got thumbs up, smiley faces, hearts, check marks. Man, there's a lot of options here. Trophies, that's a cool one. Flags, light bulbs, or a ribbon. Yeah. So that's kind of nice. You can have like a 4 ribbon thing. What do you think about this? All right. I'm going to shut
would
up.
it be
I'm
trademark
going to
infringement
launch the poll.
if you did 6 flags?
Yeah. Copyright infringement. Yeah, we would get a takedown notice if we did 6 flags. All right, I'm going to launch it. Let's see if it makes that noise again. Yeah. Wow, that's an interesting noise. Yeah, I don't think you guys heard that on the chat because we're not piping our system audio through. But
I don't think that is the out of the box experience. I don't think Microsoft programmed that in there. I think there might be an issue with the audio plugin with my Teams instance.
It sounds like you ran into something in a video game and like Mario turned into little Mario again. I hit a Goomba.
Oh, Daryl says they hear it.
It sounded like a guitar riff. So it went through into this meeting. Wow. My mind is blown right now. I don't even know what to say.
That's not the out of the box sound. You shouldn't be experiencing that. I've been troubleshooting with Microsoft this week to try to fix that.
Yeah, not quite Mentimeter, but they're heading the right direction. It's getting better. Okay, yeah, they definitely heard it. Yep, I heard it. Sorry, I'm behind on the chat. Dwayne says it's a lot of fun to do rating polls in large meetings. Yeah, I think that's really cool. I really like the addition of ratings. I think that's something that could really help you get the pulse. I was really excited early in the year when word cloud support came out. So word cloud's been with us for a while, and Daryl's question is does it have emojis in it? So we might try that, Andy. There's only 2 of us, but I wonder if we could do an open-ended question, throw some emojis in there, and see if the emojis show up. I think they probably are. Phil hates this. He says, please, no more emojis. But then put 3 emojis in his response. So I'm going to make a new poll. We're going to do a word cloud. And we're going to be does emojis work in word clouds? And I'm terrible at English. Do emojis work? Launch it. There's that noise. So I have a special button on my Stream Deck, Andy. I don't know if you've ever seen this. There's some special key stroke that you can do to get the emoji keyboard to pop up in Mac OS. But I programmed a button to do that so I can do raised hands and hit submit. And then let's see if that's enough. I imagine you probably have to get more responses before it starts building the cloud.
My Stream Deck emoji button.
What's that one? Oh, you have an emoji button on your with your thing. Yeah, that's what mine is. It's a little smiley face picture, but it brings up my emoji keyboard. So, but you can't do the word cloud because you're a guest. So yeah, you can't add to this, can you? Well, no, it popped up.
Yeah. It pops up briefly for a second, but I'm not fast enough to get my cursor in there.
Okay. Yeah. I may have to just add Megan Bowen or something to this. So we can get more people to be in here. Oh, but I'm not in Contoso. I'm in my Collab More tenant, so that's not going to do anything. Never mind. So I think, oh wow, we're getting spammed by somebody. Block user on YouTube. It's adult dating website. Block user on YouTube. Okay. There we go. It reloaded the page. Oh, I lost my whole chat. So I accidentally lost my chat, guys. It went black. It went to blank for me. So there was a lot of talk though about hearing the sound that popped in. The responses though, I'm not seeing the word cloud get built yet. If I add a response in, okay, so it started building the word cloud for the word great in there. So I guess the answer, Daryl, is it doesn't show emojis. I guess they don't render inside of the word cloud.
So here's a response.
Okay, yeah, no emojis in word cloud from Michelle. Okay, that settles it. Microsoft says so.
And then just a follow-up. Did we really put noise in there? There is a noise. It is
Yeah.
not the noise that is coming through this presentation, but there is a noise that does pop up
Yeah.
with
I'm
with
hearing
it.
like a guitar riff. Somebody mentioned that it sounded like a guitar riff. Yeah. He's gonna mention that to the product manager. Like,
It
what is
really
that
sounds
like
to me like a laser
raging
and a
guitar?
foghorn mixed together.
Yeah. Yeah, that was I mean, it's a fun noise. It definitely gets attention, like boom, poll, everybody answer this. So,
If you weren't paying attention in the
um,
meeting up to that point, you will be afterward.
yeah, we're getting too popular. Somebody started like spamming the chat. That's not great. Um, which is fine. It's the first honk of a Claxton horn. What is that? Is that some kind of New Zealand type of horn that doesn't exist outside of outside of New Zealand? I've never heard of a Claxton horn. Maybe I'm just not traveled. Vuvuzela. I've heard of those. There was a guy. Here's a fun story. At Cerner, we used to have these town halls, and they were in like the soccer stadium, and they handed out those vuvuzelas to everybody, and then people were like blowing them and being like really stupid. Well, when the CEO was on there, one of the people who was like in the food vending area like came out and just ripped on that thing right in the middle and interrupted the CEO during the town hall. And he disappeared. He was never heard from again. So yeah. All right. Anything else about polls that you guys can think of? We talked about word clouds and ratings. You can pre-create the polls
I
tab.
was about
So
to mention that.
that's
Yep.
something that you might want to look at is in your meeting, because it's a meeting app. You would go here and you would hit the plus button in your meeting details, and then you could browse your apps. The polls is right there. So you could create your tab, add your meeting polls, and kind of pre-stage everything the way you want it to be. And then that way, when it comes time for your meeting, you're just launching a poll. You're not creating the poll in the middle of the meeting. So, but okay. What else was about meeting polls? Delegating responsibility. I can't really demo that in here, but you should know that like the presenters in a meeting are the ones who are able to oh, there's more of those people. Block, and I'm gonna add to block list on Restream. There we go. I think I cleaned that up. But you can I'm like off my thought. You can delegate the responsibility to other presenters. So anybody who's a presenter can edit meeting polls. That's correct, right, Andy? If they're a presenter, they can add and look at the polls. If they're an attendee, they have, they only see the polls when they're launched, right?
I think so.
Yeah, because there's no settings in here for like who to delegate it to. I'm like 90% sure that delegation is based off of if the person is a presenter right here. So, and not an attendee. So again, use your meeting options. It's important for you to separate your presenters from your attendees so that you don't have chaos with your meeting polls. It's another reason why you want that structure. So moving on, because I have a hard stop in 1 hour and 3 minutes. We've got the meeting roles. There's a new meeting role available in your team's meetings, and that is the co-organizer. So, we've always had the organizer, the person who makes the meeting. We've had presenters, which usually by default, everybody in the meeting is a presenter. Then they added the attendee area. That was like a couple years ago, where now you could separate presenter roles from attendee roles. The attendees can't, take over the meeting and blast a bunch of content in there. They can't mute other people, stuff like that. You have guests, which Andy, you made this slide. I think you mean organizational guests, right? Like
Mhm.
the guest of your org.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a person in the meeting. It's not a separate called out role. So you can't like assign somebody a guest role. But if they're a guest, they have certain permissions, right? In a normal meeting, they can chat, they can respond to things, they can do Q&A. We've proved that. But They don't have the ability, if like this is a channel based meeting and they haven't switched their tenant, they're not going to see the chat. There's all these nuances with if you're a guest in the tenant and you go to attend a meeting. Um, but the fifth one, the latest role available to us in Teams meetings is now the co-organizer role. And the way that we get to that is in the meeting options. So we're going to go into our meeting options while the meeting is live. I can drop down this co-organizer section right here, and I can choose a co-organizer. I can choose from a list, or I can type a person's name. If it's like 300 people are in the meeting and you want to type in their name. So I can assign Andy co-presenter or co-organizer role and go ahead and hit save on that. And then now he has all of the abilities of an organizer. He can go in and he can change these meeting options now.
Not
He
quite
can
all
add
the
other
abilities.
things. So
There's a couple of things that a co-organizer can't do, and I think we've got a slide coming up that gives
do we?
a
Okay.
detailed breakdown of that.
Okay. So
Yeah,
what,
just
is that the
screenshot it.
slide here?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So if I zoom in on this a little bit, hopefully you guys can see that a little bit better. So the co-organizer, you add them according to this picture. You can search for their name, drop down who the organizer is, and then this is how you do it inside of a live meeting. Is it the next slide maybe that has our what they can do? So yeah,
there's the
you add people
breakdown of
in, you go
steps.
edit your meeting, go into meeting options. There you go. Co-organizer capabilities. You want to go over this table?
Yeah, sure. So we'll start with what the co-organizers can't do. For the most part, they're going to be able to do many of the same things that the organizer is going to be able to do, but they're not going to be able to manage the meeting recording. So the organizer can manage that, and then the person that starts the meeting recording would be able to delete it or be able to edit the meeting recording. So they're not going to have that capability. That also applies to breakout rooms. When I first saw this chart on Microsoft's website, I was a little confused about that, but breakout rooms as well. Like when you do breakout rooms, you go room to room and you can start the recording. They're not going to be able to change the meeting organizer's role. So they're not going to be able to assume the meeting organizer's role. So it's not like, hey, I'm just going to pass this off to you. They're not going to be able to do that. And there's some limits to changing meeting options for channels. So channel meetings are a little bit different than a default meeting, a meeting that you schedule from the Teams calendar or from Outlook. Channel meetings happen inside of a channel. They're not going to be able to change the meeting options during the channel. But the organizers are going to be able, within a normal meeting, to be able to update the meeting options. They are going to be able to become a breakout room manager, help you to create breakout rooms and then manage attendance to those breakout rooms. They're going to be able to help you manage with people bypassing the lobby, admitting people from the lobby during the meeting. They're going to be able to lock down that meeting as well. They can present content just like a presenter would be able to. And then they're going to be able to help you manage roles, elevate attendees to a presenter so they can maybe mute or unmute or come off a mic. They're going to be able to demote presenters down to an attendee or kick people out of the meeting. And then they can also end the meeting for everybody.
Okay. Yes, I mean they have a lot more power than just a presenter, but there's still a few things you can't do. The lockup meeting, this is something that we discovered during like tap validations. Like just this week, we were talking internally about like, hey, we're testing some like meeting devices, and we need to be able to lock the meeting in from the MTR. And like, how do we test that? The thing was, well, add the room as a co-organizer, and then now you can lock the meeting. So those were like ways that we kind of had to work around it, is getting them to be a co-organizer so that they could actually lock the meeting from that device. That's something to keep in mind if you use MTRs. So yeah, I'm curious, Phil, what you meant in your question as well, or your comment, like that it doesn't fix the shared mailbox issue. Michelle was asking like if you want to explain what you mean about that. I know there's a lot of use cases. A lot of people want to use shared mailboxes to send a meeting from a shared mailbox, like as a community, right? Send it out to people so that like their name is like not shown. But I know that that's like something you definitely want to stay away from you know, in a Microsoft Teams environment. Like Microsoft doesn't want you trying to do that because it causes all kinds of craziness with like where the meeting recording is, who owns it, all that type of stuff. So
Hey, I'm gonna bring my screen to the forefront real quick.
yeah, man. There you
So
go.
if you notice on mine, it gives me
Mhm.
the new message bar. You're a co-organizer. So if you do make somebody a co-organizer, especially during the meeting, it will
Okay.
pop up and give them that
It put the
notification.
flag for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Any other questions about co-organizer capabilities? I think that's the last slide on that one. Yeah, so Phil says people can create meetings from a shared mailbox, then the shared mailbox to the organizer. So they lose functionality for the organizer role. Yeah, you'd have to Phil, like it'd have to be like a interactive user, that shared mailbox, you know, because like you'd have to go in to like a private edge session or something, right? Log in as that mailbox and then like go into the meeting options and add the person as a co-organizer. Like it just, you lose functionality because like this faceless non-human is the organizer and has all the rights, you know. It causes craziness to happen. So all right, the next one is live transcription from the web. So this is something that I know people have been asking about for a long time. I believe this came out in July. Is that right? I think it was a July timeframe where now you can turn on your live captions from the web browser experience. So if I leave this meeting here, I'm going to leave it and I'm going to open it up the from the web browser instead. So I'm going to copy this and then we're going to go into Edge right here, paste that in, and I'm going to not open in the app. I'm going to open in the browser and we'll be able to join. So Andy, I think if you unmute your microphone, then we'll be able to have captions show up. So we're joining this meeting. I'm going to go ahead and do computer audio and I'm going to use my AirPods, my microphone, and I'm going to join it. So we've got the meeting live now. That's great. And if I go over to the more options, you'll see that like at the top, oh, I was not showing my screen. You'll see at the top here, you have the ribbon, the control panel, the control bar is up at the top, just like you have in the web app. It's no longer like floating at the bottom. But if I open that up, I can turn on live captions now, say, hey, this is in English, and I'll confirm that. And then here in a second, I should see the live captions start popping up. There they go. So it's recognized what I say through my microphone, and it's in a web browser experience. If I start recording this meeting, oh, I can't record. I wonder why I can't record. I wonder if I have that turned off for this account because this is like a different account that I'm using to get in here. But transcription should work as well. You can now turn on transcription, see that from the little side pane. Like you'd see transcript up the top, you could see it across the right-hand side. So
Now, what happens if I start talking during the meeting? And I think we are able to see now that it has identified that I'm talking and it's picking up my audio, converting that to a live transcription inside of the web experience.
Yep. And I hear double audio from you
Yeah.
because I hear you coming through the meeting and I hear you through the browser as well. But through
Just a little
Restream.
reverb.
Yeah, you sound like you're in a rock venue. But yeah, so that's available. And Phil has some feedback on this one. Says, yeah, 2 lines of scrolling is a little bit painful. I agree. It would be nice if I could like click in here and scroll back. That's really what the transcript is for. Cause like the captions at the bottom, those are supposed to be for it's an accessibility thing. And I believe the standard, at least whenever I'm watching like TV and I turn on closed captions, because dude, I turn on closed captions probably 90% of the time when I'm watching TV because my children are extremely loud and talk over each other. So we basically have to like read our TV whenever we're watching. But it's always showing just 2 lines on my closed captioning. So I don't know if that's like an industry standard maybe or something, but I know that it's 2 lines when it comes to like I'm broadcasting on television. So maybe they just match that. But Phil, to your point, if somebody just turns on transcript, then you would get like it over on the side right there instead. Dang, and that like adult website thing just did it again. Add to block list. There we go. It just disappeared. Oh, we don't allow transcript. Yeah, it's that way for me too, man. Some of the countries that we operate in don't have recording and transcription turned on. So I definitely feel that. Also, when somebody changes the spoken language, it changes for everyone. Yeah, that was something that we pointed out, I think a couple of sessions ago, maybe, where if whenever they like set the language in the meeting, it's going to set that for the meeting. Like you're telling teams what is the spoken language here, and it's not a transcription, it's a closed caption. It's not a translation, it's a closed caption is what it is. So it's not going to translate into another language. Maybe that'll come eventually. So Michelle, thanks for joining, man. It was good to see you on here. Yeah, excited for Ignite too. I'm sure you'll be around at Ignite. Maybe we'll bump into each other virtually. So,
The virtual
anything
hangout.
else with live captions?
No,
Yeah.
I'm just happy to
Hey,
see
maybe
some of
we'll
these
meet in
features
alt
starting to roll
space
out in the
somewhere.
web.
Do what? Sorry.
I'm just happy to see some of these features starting to roll out to the web. There's been a lot of innovation in the web recently. There's been some parity came between the desktop, and in some cases, there's a few things that have hit web that are not in desktop yet that are pretty cool. But I'm happy to see
Yeah.
the live captions go to the web because we have so many users that they spend their day in the web. You know, that's
Yeah, things are they're kind of coming together slowly, but they're coming together a little bit here, which I think is really good. All right, let me get back to the slides here and show that. We're going to go ahead and focus on content. There we go. And we're going to scroll through here. So we're at live captions and transcription. We just talked about that. There we go. So up next is together mode. So in Ring 4, there's 2 new features here. You can set up custom scenes, which was announced probably a year and a half ago that they had like in the developer build. It was kind of a developer-y feature. There was a portal where you could upload a picture and then you would move around who you wanted to be in what spots. And then you could publish that internally as a together mode scene. Whoa, I heard myself again. I heard myself twice. But another thing that's available in Ring 4 now is being able to assign seats. I'm not sure if I will be able to do this or not, Andy, but if I turn on together mode, then now what I can do is, yeah, down here at the bottom, you can assign seats right here at the bottom. So I don't know why it wants access to my desktop folder, but whatever. So I can hit assign seats, and then it's going to come up with the together mode scene, which is really cool. And I can now drag people where I want them to be. So I'm going to put myself up here, and I'm going to put Andy down here, the bottom corner. I'm not sure how Andy's joined, so I'm going to put both of him down there. And then we're going to hit assign. And if I turn on my camera and I go back here, there's the 2 of us. So I'm up here in the upper corner. If Andy turns on his camera, he's going to go in the bottom opposite corner of the together mode scene. So this is available today in Ring 4. You don't have to be in any special, early public preview to get this feature. So super cool. One thing I would like about this, I think, Andy, is I would like if we could have that assignment saved, right? Or that might be a question is if you set up a series, like say you've got a recurring meeting going on, do you have the ability to like set assignments, like assign seats, and then have it set for that whole series? Or is it just for that one single meeting? If anybody knows that, I would be really interested in the chat. If you've done that before, like, can you reuse that seat assignment? Have you seen that before? Have you done anything with that? Oh, I think you're muted, man. I couldn't hear you.
No, I have not.
There you are. Okay. Yeah. Together mode's like one of those things that's like not used as much as I think some people hope it would be. But yeah, I would be curious if you can like assign people and then make that a sticky assignment from meeting to meeting. That would be really cool. Um, the other thing, speaking about go back to gallery mode, speaking about how people don't use together mode, there's another thing that helps is when you go into together mode. Oh, let's change scene. Is now you have this ability, which is in the bottom corner, select together mode for everyone. So regardless of if Andy has together mode open or not, I can force it on his screen. So I'm going to show him up front. So Andy just sees the ribbon. I'm going to go ahead and apply together mode for everybody. And boom, now Andy has been forced into together mode. So I think that would be really nice, um, especially for a teacher, right? They want to put everybody in the same view. They have that capability now by doing that check mark. So that's a helpful thing to know. Oh, and that's available in public preview. So this is why we have these slides, right? Is you want to know it's available in public preview today. So not quite in Ring 4. What were you bringing up there, Andy, with your docs?
Yeah, so this is really cool from Microsoft. It talks about the custom together mode scenes and then some best practices, but it also tells you how to build a scene, like
Yeah.
how to actually create your own, and it's detailed instruction. That was really cool. So I brought that up, and for anybody follows me on Twitter, I linked it there, and I think I put it in the YouTube comments also.
In the chat. Okay, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the scene builder, is that what it's called? No, scene studio. So it's scene studio. And actually there's some like .json text that you can mess with too, so you can manipulate a little bit more than we used to be able to do. That's nice. It's another one of those things like I think people don't know about this, and it's another one of those features that like Zoom brought it out, and like I feel like maybe more people know about it in Zoom than know about it in Teams. But like you can do these custom together mode scenes and you can move people around, which is like something that people have talked about, like, oh, Zoom can do that. So that's another one of those things you can say, hey, yeah, actually Teams does it. Here's all the documentation on it. Find that on Andy's Twitter account, which if you don't follow him, there's a little tag. It's at Andy Honeycutt on Twitter, and you'll find the link to that documentation.
So I already know what scene I'm going to create. Give me a second. I'm going to pull up the image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a bunch. When it first came out in preview, I did a bunch, and I was like flooding Twitter with them. I think Jeff Teeper responded to one of them because I did the Muppets. That was easy. I also did, I think my favorite one was I did the Magic School Bus background. It was like a picture of the Magic School Bus, and I put everybody in the windows of the school bus. I like that one. You can put everybody's face in an Iron Man suit.
Yes. Our together mode scene is going to be the Iron Man Hall of Armor.
Nice. I like that. What would be cool would be in that scene studio, if you could like crop in on the person, so it's like just their face or something, because then you could put their face over the face mask.
Now, at first, when I was like, "Oh, that'd be kind of fun to do like the Iron Man heads up display," but I don't know if I want to have more than one person inside of that heads up display. It might get a little cramped in there.
Yeah, everybody's like crammed in, like on top of each other. Yeah, you'd have to be able to do like transparency on the person too, to make them like a hologram. That's something though, to be honest, like that sounds really dumb, like kind of silly to like, oh, make a hologram. But dude, there's people who are doing Microsoft Teams. They're trying to do production and show like a nice production thing. And holography is a thing in the enterprise. Like there's people trying to push the edges and trying to do these holograms in virtual events so they feel like the person's there. So honestly, a transparency slider in together mode or in like some type of scene builder theoretically would be really nice, because then you could make a quote unquote hologram and kind of fake this holography mixed reality type of experience. That would be interesting. Yes, I totally agree, Phil. These are really useful for panel discussions. Like if you were going to do together mode, well, yeah, let's build that actually. Let's show what that would look like. So I'm going to throw mine on screen. I'm going to change the scene, and then this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to select this one, which is just like a table of people, and then I'm going to do assign seats, right? So there's people in each one, and I'm just going to put myself in here. So the question is, can you exclude people? So like I've got 180 people in a meeting, but 3 people are my panelists. Can I make those people not show on screen? So let's do that. I hit apply. Nope, Andy popped in because it was an available seat. So yeah, that would be really nice, Phil, if you could like make it so somebody doesn't show on screen, because otherwise I think those are just free for all spots. So like I could put Andy over on the far side if I wanted to, but in between us, see, Andy's going to move. Well, I did the wrong one right there. So Andy jumps over to that seat, but the problem is if I had 3 other people in the meeting, they're going to pop into these open seats right here. Yeah, automatically. So I guess you would want to build a panel that has the number of people that you're in, right? And you could do that with PowerPoint, right? You could go in here to PowerPoint, go down here. Let's do a new slide, make a new slide like this, and then just put like insert shapes, right? And do like little boxes here and do like a 3-person panel. So like that, add that one there, take them all, make them skinnier like that. And then now I've got 3 boxes to pop people into. Go ahead and actually if you did a solid color like this, I could like put them all in here like this, and then save that as a picture, save that slide, make that the background, and then put 3 people in. And if you know you have a 3-panel panelist thing, then you could assign those 3 people. And if you assign the maximum number of people, you're not going to have attendees show up on the screen. So you'd have to do a little bit of pre-work, Phil, but that's an idea, is create some panel backgrounds, use them as together mode, force everybody into seeing together mode. The challenge is like if you wouldn't be able to like spotlight that together mode. If you had content and the other, then you wouldn't see them side by side. But yeah, your layout looks pretty good right there, Andy. You got us in together mode really big. You're using pop out to do the content next to us.
And that's one of the use cases that I think where pop out really makes a whole lot of sense. It gives that feeling of we're together, included in the meeting, and then there's the content so I can pay attention.
Yeah. Now, what would be cool, this is getting into like a full scene builder, but hey, Microsoft, you called it Scene Studio. So I'm going to like explore, rather than just together mode, if you could create an entire stage, that would be really cool. If the Scene Studio went into a stage, because then you could put a placeholder for content. Oh, I'm dreaming here, but that would be so sweet, wouldn't it? Like, what if we took these
This
people,
image,
squished them down to what?
where is it? Right here.
Yeah, what if we were able to do this in Scene Studio from Microsoft? Boom. And then say, I want to put person number 1 right here, person number 2 right here, and then whatever shared content over in that box. And now you'd have a side-by-side custom branded meeting stage. Can you do that? Is that in Scene Studio?
I didn't go down that far. I stopped at this image
I don't think it's available.
Yeah, this one would be like kind of along those lines though. Like you got people around the table and the content in the center. So like everybody's like kind of in the same, general area.
Yeah.
As you would go down the table.
Yep, that'd be cool because, like, dude, you could put that content like at the end of the table on that little screen. You know, if you took like a better picture, you could use that. Like, Michelle, he's done like presentations before where he's like, moving himself around on the scene, and um, uh, gosh, what's his name? I just blanked on it. Starts with a D. He does like a lot of like OBS scenes where he's like doing demos. And he's got his MTR up on a screen. Like if you could do that, but with together mode, that would be rad. That'd be super cool. Just like dreaming a little bit. And then the next step, the last step is, yeah, if you could bring up content and together mode, if you could have it record that way, that would solve so many problems. That would just get us there with a lot of use cases that we need. If you could just record that too. So, free ideas, Microsoft. Okay, so I think that's enough together mode, don't you think?
I
We've
concur.
gotten crazy with dreaming. Okay, so there's together mode. We've got the custom stuff, presenter modes. So there's a few new presenter modes available. There's the standout mode, which is this larger mode where the person's in the bottom corner. I used to call it like Twitch streamer view, where like it looks like every Twitch stream. There's the side by side available as well. So like Andy's put himself uh, in standout mode. That's what's called a standout. And then there's the side by side view. If you're sharing a screen, you can do side by side. And then you can like make yourself bigger in that. It's not called standout, it's called reporter view, I believe, right? Reporter view, where you're a little bit bigger and your content is like over your shoulder. I think it's more like an anchor person if you're like watching the news. It's more of an anchor.
If you switch over to your view.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm going to focus on content, and then Andy's going to put himself in reporter view.
Are you still in together mode?
Oh, yes, I am. Sorry, dude. Is your camera on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got the screen here.
Oh, I don't know why I'm not seeing it.
Let me try it again.
So there's the side-by-side view. So Andy's going to turn it back on. You're in together mode right now. I might have messed it up by forcing together mode on people. Yep, now I see the proper view. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's side by side. And you can change the background to a different background if you want to. And this, what Andy's doing right now, this is a new feature in that presenter view. Is I'm going to show your screen. You can decide what side of the screen you're going to be on. So you can flip flop how you want to be laid out, and you can make yourself bigger or smaller now. So those are both capabilities in the new presenter modes.
Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a nice layout. Again, sure would be cool if it records that way, but maybe someday in the future. Yeah, that looks really nice. And see, he can make himself smaller as he goes down. His content gets a little bit bigger and takes over more of the stage. So there's good customization there without having to like learn OBS, right? Like there's the fine line between you want to give people options, but you want to not make it hard to use, you know? There you go. Yeah, and it cut you out nicely. It stopped like doing that weirdness with your headphones. But cool. So that looks good. That's the reporter view, or all of the other views here. Let me get back over here. Oh my gosh, we have so many more of these, dude. So many more items.
Some of
All
them
right,
are going to go pretty
this.
quick.
All right, let's scroll ahead to. We went through the presenter modes, so that's what those look like. And joining a meeting with an ID and a passcode. So this is a brand new functionality. I saw this in my Ring 4 tenant. What I wish this was on is I would love to have this on Microsoft Teams rooms, because like I'm in a situation where I have like my corporate tenant is what I'm in all day, every day, but my MTR behind me is in another tenant. So they're not the same tenant. I would love it if I could take the meeting ID, walk over to my board and type in the meeting ID and then start whiteboarding. So I hope Microsoft will bring that at some point. But this is helpful for you though. If you don't have a meeting on your calendar, you want to be able to type in an ID. It's 9 digits, isn't it? Isn't it like 3 sets of 3 numbers? And then boom, you're in the meeting as well. I think it's 9 numbers.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I do know they have this really neat website though. Microsoft created this when I was doing research on Join by ID. I came across this, and it's a Microsoft.com site where you can enter in the ID and the meeting passcode, and you can join the meeting. I would assume directly in the web,
Okay.
right from there.
Okay, nice. Yes, yeah. So that's kind of like a landing page then to get in and jump into a meeting. I could see that being useful for, say that like you're a healthcare institution and you're gonna like send out an invite for like a virtual visit or something like that. Bring people to that landing zone so they can type in their appointment like meeting ID and get into that virtual visit. I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the use cases that Microsoft kind of talks about, is for like virtual visits in healthcare.
Yeah, I think that would be a good use case for it. It also gives people a little bit more comfort knowing, hey, I'm going to Microsoft.com and entering this in to join a Microsoft Teams meeting
Mhm.
versus like
Yeah.
sketchyurl.com.
Yeah. Or interviews, job interviews. I could see that being something too, where like I'm nervous about like, does what mail provider does this candidate use? And is it going to be a proper meeting with the link go through and then they click on it, join the Teams meeting, have the job interview? If you have meeting ID and passcode, they jump to that page and they type it in, then, to be honest, it's just how other meeting platforms have worked for like a decade. You can type in a number and join a meeting. Easy. But yeah, job interviews might be another use case where you might find this useful. Cool. Up next, getting into public preview features. So we talked about like one thing that was in public preview, which is the ability to force everybody into together mode. So what else do we have on the list for public preview? One of them is Excel Live. Do I have this now? I think I did. When I go in here to the share tray, no, don't update driver. I can annotate my screen, but down here it's in preview right now, but you see Excel Live. So this is the ability to share an Excel spreadsheet the way that you share a PowerPoint presentation, and then both of us can like work in the spreadsheet at the same time without having to like send a link to it in the chat through OneDrive and then people open it and you're doing co-authoring. It's a little bit more seamless, where like if they don't have Excel open, if they don't have the file open, share it using Excel Live, and then now they can help out with the spreadsheet, and you can work together on it rather than having to like go out of the meeting to get them access to the file, if that makes sense. So I don't have the ability to demo this because I don't have a spreadsheet, Andy. Actually, you know what?
I don't have that
think
option on my end.
Here, let me see what I can find here. Let's do. So that's a different one. Okay, here we go. Because I don't care about showing my own PHI. Here are all of my blood glucose readings for like the past 6 years. It's the only spreadsheet I have in my OneDrive, Andy. So there's my blood glucose readings. I'm diabetic, by the way. I wear a puck on my arm. and I was like exporting that so I could import it into Apple Health. But inside of Excel Live, I'm able to like bring up those glucose readings, and now Andy should be able to type with me. If we scroll up here to the top, I'm at like cell 1D. I can go and I can add a bunch of stuff. And then Andy, you should be able to do that as well, right? No, can't show content. Oh,
Not,
it's because you're a guest and you're not public preview.
but my other user, I can.
Right.
I'm logged into
Oh,
the
the one
meeting
who's
twice.
a proper guest in the tenant.
Yep.
That's probably what it is. Okay. So Andy on his laptop over here, he's in my Excel spreadsheet and we're working on this spreadsheet together. He's in the purple. I'm down here in the bottom corner adding stuff, and we can work together without having to like send him the link to the file. We can just do it.
So
like
here's
ad
something
hoc, which
interesting.
is really cool.
You
Yeah.
see yourself in green and you see me in purple. I see myself in green and I see you in purple. So
Oh, the colors are flip flopped.
yeah, so like whoever, like
Interesting.
the first person, you is green.
Yeah.
My first person is green, and the other person is purple.
Nice.
Just a
Here's
little,
another thing I
little
just
thing.
saw. If you mouse up to the top, the ribbon comes up right there, and then you can go right here. You can see Andy, go to location. So if I'm like way down here, I'm in like the 1300s. I can go up to the top, click on Andy, and jump to where he is, and it finds him. So if you're in Excel Live and this is all like it's hidden, where's my ribbon? Go up to the top, and the ribbon becomes visible for you. And then I think always show. You can click on that right there. Click always show from the little caret. And then now you'll have the ribbon like normal Excel. So there you go. There's a tip. I bet you haven't seen that in other YouTube videos. I just found it. So actually probably not. There's a ton of like way better videos than our little deep dive, our demo. Go check those out. Like Kevin Stratvert, I'm sure has one. I think Stephen Collier, I think he did one on Excel Live. They're probably going to be way more like structured than what we just did. So,
and probably a much
I
deeper
don't see any
dive.
options though.
This is the shallowest dive we've done into a feature.
Yeah, we're hitting features like rapid fire, going through a lot of stuff. I don't see any like special settings in here. I don't know if special settings are going to come or exist, but it is what it is. You got Excel, and everybody's in Excel. You didn't have to share the file manually. I think that's the big feature takeaway is you don't have to go hunt down the file and share it. So, anything else with Excel Live you can think of?
I think that might be one that we revisit a little bit deeper at some point. I think there's more than what we're doing here, but the ability to have multiple people in a spreadsheet without having to leave the meeting and do the workarounds to share a desktop and manage two separate screens. I think that's a big one because this is core to productivity for a lot of organizations. A lot of businesses run their business in Excel. So to be able to bring that up in a meeting and have people just right then interact with it, I think that's a big thing.
Yeah. Cool. Let's go back to the PowerPoint then here. So we talked about Excel Live. There's breakout rooms with pre-assignment in channel meetings. So we've done a big deep dive on this already. So I don't know if we should show it. I don't think there's really much to show because we've done that in another deep dive. But you should probably be aware that you can assign people to meeting or to breakout rooms before the meeting starts if the meeting's in a channel now. You used to be able to do it in a regular scheduled meeting on the calendar. Now you can do it in a channel. Anything else you'd like to add on that one?
The breakout rooms with channel meetings is very interesting. I think there's some things for us to explore a little bit deeper on that, I think, in the future, because like I think it's been a while since we've done breakout rooms and there's been some features added to it, like the ability to pre-assign rooms, but now that's rolling into channel meetings as well. And I know we've done a deep dive into channel meetings, but the use case around a channel meeting for breakout room scenarios is interesting because
Mhm.
I would be interested in exploring and learning about what the guest experience would look like in a channel meeting with breakout rooms and
Yeah.
pre-assignment, what it's going to look like for people that are members of the team and have access to the channel. Can they go back and access the breakout room after the meeting's over?
Mhm.
There's some interesting things I think to explore with that, but I haven't really wrapped my head around using channel meetings and then extending into breakout rooms for some meeting types and some processes. So that one's really interesting. We might want to circle back to that at some point in
Mhm.
the future.
Yeah, might be, like, worthy of a deep dive in and of itself,
Yeah,
you know? We could definitely figure out stuff to talk about there, you know? Like,
we can break it.
that's what I love about doing these. We just go, like, layer by layer into something and try to, like, squeeze as much as we can out of it. Um, so the next one is the Adobe Acrobat default PDF handler. Do you have more detail on this? I saw a screenshot about it, but I don't know enough about it to, like, where do you set this at? Is it, like, in the team settings or anything like that?
That's a
Or is it
good
just
one. I can't remember.
default?
We
Let's
talked
go into my
about
team
that.
settings and see.
Admittedly, this is one we needed to research a little bit more.
Yeah. I was thinking it might be in this, like, file open preference thing, but it's not in that location. So we might have to look more about this or do some research, if you will, about Adobe Acrobat default PDF handler. But
It's an
supposedly it
admin
uses
thing.
the Adobe Acrobat. Oh, it's an
Yeah,
admin thing.
you
Okay, so the Teams admin center, they set that as the file handler for specific users or the whole tenant, and then now it's going to open up
yeah,
files in Adobe Acrobat.
it allows the
Okay.
Adobe Acrobat app in your tenant. You can install it for all
Hmm.
users if you need, and then you can use that as the default PDF
Okay.
viewer moving forward. So if you're following me on
Okay.
Twitter, I'll make sure that's in the thread that I've got going for today's deep dive.
Cool. Awesome. I don't know how you're, like, doing Twitter and doing doing this at the same time. There's no way I could handle that all
Practice.
simultaneously. Yeah. Um, the coach. So the Teams meeting coach, it used to be called speaker coach, then presenter coach was the original one was presenter coach in PowerPoint, right? Then they were gonna have speaker coach in meetings, and then now is it called I see it called speaker coach.
Their documentation is all over the place, and it's like if you go from like
Really?
one article to another, like the names kind of vary. On this blog, it's called this. On that document, it's called that. And on this article, it's called this. It's all over the place. So as soon as I was like getting confused with this, my friend Jared came to mind, and let's
Uh-huh.
pivot. So we see here it's speaker coach. But if you're trying to look this up, you might find these three different names
Mhm.
associated with it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I've kinda adopted calling it speaker coach, but I remember it was called presenter coach back in the day. Um, so if I turn that on, I haven't used it. So it's going to listen to me, analyze my speech, which it's not going to be able to do right now because I don't have my microphone turned on. So let me turn on audio. Oh, now I hear myself twice again. Okay, so if I say stuff like, a lot of filler words, like I don't know what to say. Let's see if it pops up with a recommendation saying, "Hey, you should, like, stop saying 'like' all the time because that's really obnoxious." Okay, I gotta stop that because it's, like, screaming in my ear. But I didn't see any, like, recommendation pop up because I started saying "like" a whole lot. So, who knows? Maybe at the end, it will tell me, at the end, like, "Hey, you said 'like' 18 times in 10 seconds. You should stop that." Um
So it is worth pointing out this is in public preview, so it's not going to be GA. It's something you can definitely test and
Yeah.
um, get a feel for. But it extends off of the
Mhm.
presenter coach that we had previously in PowerPoint.
Mhm.
So I think it's going to help people to prepare for meetings because now you can prepare and practice inside of Microsoft Teams, which is where you're going to be
Mhm.
delivering it. And I think like that's one of the important things about delivering a presentation. Prepare yourself, prepare your information, and prepare your area. And if you're preparing inside of the application where you're going to deliver it, you might be more comfortable at
Mhm.
delivery time. So I'm excited to see that roll into Teams, but it's going to pull a lot from what they've done with the presenter, speaker, coach inside of PowerPoint.
Mhm. Yeah. I think it's a really helpful thing. I personally wouldn't want the live bubbles popping up because I think that'll distract me. But I really
Very
love the idea of
distracting.
getting a report at the end. Yeah, I like the report at the end. Like, tell me how I did later. Don't throw me off now. you know, because I get distracted easily. If you couldn't tell, every time like a chat comes in, I get distracted by it. So,
I do like the
um,
pacing stuff, like the pop up with the pacing, like tell me, the average words
yeah,
per
to
minute.
slow
Tell me
down or
you're a
speed
little
up.
fast. I do like that. That is kind of helpful. But I do agree the pop up
Yeah.
bubble, like you're saying a whole lot, or you're saying like a whole lot. It's part of the script. I
Hmm.
don't know, like that distracts me. I like using the live captions, but it
Hmm.
distracts me because I try to read what I'm saying and it makes me slow down. And so it kind of has the same effect when
Yeah.
you're in the speaker coach.
Yeah. This is a good detail right here, Andy. Um, 80 to 160 words per minute. That's the like what studies have shown. So it sounds like maybe if you're below 80, it's going to tell you to speed up. If you're above 160, it's going to tell you to slow down, which is pretty good. Um, so that's a tutorial for how to use it. I don't see a picture of the report that you get other than this screenshot right here. So there's like a little bit of a preview of what that report looks like at the end. I'll be curious if it generated a report for me because I turned it on just now.
So just to point out, this is a tutorial that Microsoft hosts on office.com around
Hmm.
getting prepared with it. This actually, I think, was associated with PowerPoint. But I threw that in because that
Okay.
dashboard just kind of gives you a heads up what it's going to look like, but it just kind
Yeah.
of gives you some information. The dashboard for Speaker Coach and Teams looks a little different. If you pull up my screen, I've got it here.
Looks like. Okay. Oh no. Why did that get really big? There we
There we
go.
go.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so this is what the public preview blog post says that the dashboard is actually going to look like inside of
Hmm.
Teams.
Yeah.
And there's a pretty thorough article to walk you through the public preview option. I think this might be something that we could also deep dive into a little bit more later on, but I'll make sure that we get this out there for anybody following along on the social medias.
Yeah. Okay. So the last thing to talk about is before we go into Ignite predictions is annotations in Teams are in public preview. You saw whenever I clicked the share button, it told me, "Hey, you can annotate your screen." That's available if you share your screen. You can turn on annotations. We did an entire deep dive on this. I think it was in June, maybe,
Mhm.
where we went into the annotations and like really did a lot to talk about annotations. So check that out on this channel. Go back in time, like 2 or 3 months, and you'll see our one about annotations. I don't think there's anything new in annotations, is there? Since we did our
Not
deep dive,
no.
not yet. Okay. All right. So let's get into Ignite predictions in the last 15 minutes that we've got here. Um, Andy and I, we thought it'd be fun to end this out with like what we think is going to come at Ignite. It's important to point out that we we are MVPs, so we have an NDA with Microsoft, but I Scouts honor. I have not seen any Ignite preview stuff yet. I don't know what's coming at Ignite, and we've like bounced off of each other, and we're not divulging any kind of like NDA information. But each of us picked out a couple of predictions that we expect to see at Ignite here. I think it's like 2.5 weeks away. So you want me to start off, Andy?
Yeah,
With
go
mine?
for it.
All right, I'm going to jump in. I've got 3 predictions that I think we're going to see at Ignite this year. The first one is I think we're going to see a lot about mesh. I've been seeing like some like stirring in the community about mesh over the past like week or two. There actually was a Metaverse One conference. This is put on by like several friends of ours in the UK and Finland, I think. So out of Europe, these guys, they put on, it used to be called Teams Nation. Now it's called Metaverse One. So look it up if you've never heard of it before. They had their first conference like 2 weeks ago. And Pune Kaufman did one of the keynotes there. And she was talking a lot about what mesh and Teams is going to look like, the stuff kind of rehashing like what had already been announced, talking about avatars and stuff. But then she ended with, we got a lot of exciting stuff at Ignite. Stay tuned. Like, kind of like saying, hey, come check us out at Ignite. So my prediction is I think they're going to talk a lot about mesh and give us an update on where the heck it is. Because to be honest, everybody, they made a big splash. They got their wording out there and marketing out there, and then nothing happened. And like we all were like, okay, you said first half of 2022. If we're past the first half of 2022, where is it at? So I'm expecting we're going to get an update on there. If I had to make a prediction, I want to be a little bit more specific. I think they're going to announce avatars would be public preview. I'm going to guess that they'll hit public preview in November. So hold me to that. If we keep score next month, we need to look back and say, John said that they were going to do avatars in November in preview, because that's my prediction. I think they're going to do avatars general availability at the end of the year. So that's my prediction on timing. My prediction on the other parts of mesh, which is immersive meetings and drop-in spaces, the stuff that was announced at Build. I think we're not going to get any new timelines on those 2 features. I think they're going to push it out to 2023. Maybe they'll give us like a coming in spring or coming in summer type of a deal, but I think they'll probably get specific about when avatars are coming. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope they just unleash everything and we can just get on with mesh and doing metaverse stuff. But my guess is by the end of the year, I expect we'll have avatars. My second one is Clipchamp. So Clipchamp, if you remember, maybe about a year ago, got purchased by Microsoft. And then it's another one of those things where like they put out some press releases, some information, blogs, and then we haven't heard anything about Clipchamp. My prediction is I think that they're going to announce some type of detailed integration with Microsoft Stream. And again, I haven't heard of any like stuff, but I would guess that Stream will probably say something about like editing video in Stream 2.0 and in Stream on SharePoint. That's my hope. I think the driver behind this would be that like I think Stream 2.0 needs a little bit of extra like sparkle or a little bit of extra like thing to excite people about getting over to the new Stream and getting away from Stream Classic. So the thing that I think would be exciting enough to get people to jump over is I think it would be Clipchamp if they integrated Clipchamp. So my prediction is I think that everybody would get basic Clipchamp with E3 and above. So E3 and E5, basic Clipchamp, you can do, like editing your videos inside of SharePoint, stuff like that. I think that if you want to do assets and like stock video and stock music, that'll be like an extra SKU or some kind of premium whatever. So that's my prediction. I think they're going to talk about Clipchamp. I think you're going to get some of it with your existing licenses, and I think you're going to have to pay a premium to get like even more. So then the third one that I've got, Andy, is Webinars 2.0. I think they're going to detail what they talked about in July. So if I open up a link here, there was this blog post back July 19th, where they've announced a new generation or a new iteration on webinars, where we're going to have like kind of this more like, detailed experience of like going through, not quite a wizard, but like you've got a menu to go through and do better, bios for speakers, do proper corporate branding, and add a capacity limit and have like customized forms when people go through registration. So I think we're probably going to get live demo of this at Ignite. So that's my expectation. Webinars 2.0. I think they're going to show it off. And my prediction is going to be that it'll be coming in spring 2023 is what they'll probably advertise. My hope, I don't know, this is part of my prediction, but my hope is I think we're going to see some type of like privacy features. So like the ability for people to not see each other in the meeting, like hide the participant pane. I've seen people scream about that enough and ask for that feature. I hope Microsoft's going to do it. And then the other thing that I hope that they're going to add is the ability to schedule a series of webinars. Like make a page that has multiple webinars on it, so people could sign up for one or more webinars if they want to, or pick from a list of upcoming classes. That's the other thing that I've heard people, saying that they want, like probably the second most popular feature request out there. So those are mine, Andy. I think those are the three things that we're going to see at Ignite. What do you got, man?
Can you re-upload the deck?
Oh, the slide deck? Yeah, sure, man.
Yeah, I made an update to the slide.
Okay. Yeah, let me jump over there. Let me
or I can just bring it up here. I can just bring it up on my screen here. This will work too.
That's all right, dude. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So first and foremost, I was going to say there's probably going to be some huge announcements around Viva.
I stole your thunder.
But yeah, man, like they totally. So if you aren't aware, on I think Thursday, September 22nd, Microsoft made a ton of announcements around Microsoft Viva, a couple of new product lines associated with that, and a number of new features and some enhancements to some of the stuff that they already had. So I was going to say you're probably going to see some stuff around Viva, but that was already announced. So I'm just going to move on. Avatars. So you mentioned avatars as part of Mesh, and I've been thinking a lot about this recently. I think we're going to see avatars in meetings. Like, I don't know if we're going to go fully into the 3D kind of all space VR type meeting, but I think what you're going to see is implementation of avatars to represent a person during a meeting versus maybe them having their camera on. I think that's the next logical step for this hybrid world that we're in. Not everybody's comfortable being in a camera, but if they had an avatar to represent and or express themselves as part of the meeting, that would go a long way toward moving into kind of the mesh-based 3D avatar world. So I think that's the next step.
Yeah.
That being said, if I'm giving a wish list, what I would really like to see is what Apple has done with the Memojis in the iOS system, or the Apple system. You can create an emoji of yourself and it's animated. So like you can use it for FaceTime. But I've also noticed recently in the Mac world, Apple world, that when you go to log in to your desktop or your MacBook, that emoji is there watching you type your password in. And if you don't type it in fast enough, it falls asleep. Or if you get it wrong, it's like shocked. And if you get it right, it smiles. Like it interacts with you, which I think is really cool.
That's pretty cool.
I would like to see like an animated avatar that, is me, or represents me, or how I choose to present myself, but also with some animation or some facial expressions or reactions. I think that would be really cool. So avatars is where I think something that we might see.
Okay.
Video features. So you mentioned the Clipchamp. I think we're going to see more some announcements around video features, not so much in maybe the Clipchamp acquisition, but the Scene Studio is really what solidified this in my mind. I think we're going to see, like in Teams, the ability to do things like more custom layouts when you're doing, like we're doing here in Restream. with the two separate feeds and then the content. I optimistically am hoping that we're going to see more about video features where I can control the layout in a Teams meeting, where I can control the camera feeds that are present on the screen, the position of those feeds, the background image associated with that. I would
That'd
like
be
to
great.
see
Yeah.
more from video feeds. Like maybe I have a couple of executives on a meeting, I'm feeding them into a town hall meeting that's then being broadcast out, and so like they can kind of have that as like a background experience. Like I'm really thinking about the next evolution of like live events and that. But I think pulling from some of what you get from like the open source tools like OBS, being able to do custom layouts and custom feeds in and out of a meeting, I would love to see some of that. And I'm hoping that we will see some of those things announced at Ignite around Teams and video features.
Okay.
More Teams and SharePoint integration. So I come from the SharePoint world. That's where I spent the better part of the last 15 years. And what I want to see, and I'm hoping that we're going to get some announcements around this, is more of SharePoint integration into Teams. There's some subtle things, some little things that you might not have noticed. Like if you go to the Files tab in a Microsoft team, let me see. Here, like you now have the ability to like customize columns in the default document library that your team is built on top of. You almost have like the full fidelity of a SharePoint document library directly inside of Teams, which is great. Now I can start doing some of the things that I've been doing for the last 15 years, metadata and tagging and organizing information. What I would like to see is more integration, such as when I go to tab something in, like I would like to be able to tab in a SharePoint site page with web parts and make that the default whenever you visit the channel versus the post tab.
Yeah.
Like they have some of that in Teams EDU. It's kind of a homepage that you can for your team classroom. I would love to see more of that come over into the the enterprise side of Teams. So I'm hoping for more Teams and SharePoint integration so that I can do more SharePoint like stuff in Teams and continue to add value to the teams that already have. So I'm hoping there's going to be some announcements around that.
Cool. Well, that sounds good. I think what we want to do, the idea is we've got our predictions out there.
We put them on the board.
Yeah, maybe we'll soon find out if we're right or not. The next deep dive we do, so at the end of October, we're going to do a deep dive where the focus is going to be on deep diving into some Ignite features. Everybody's going to talk about what was announced at Ignite. I want to pick like a very small amount, maybe 1 or 2 items, and let's go way deep into it. So we're going to do that as like the theme, but we want to start out our next live stream with how we did with our predictions and see if we guessed right or not. It'll be fun to see. So sound good, Andy?
Yes, absolutely. So
cool.
I know I would be interested to see what some of your predictions are going to be. So comments here on YouTube, let us know on social media what you think we might be seeing at Ignite. And I'm interested to see what the community thinks that we're going to learn about in the next couple of weeks.
And over the next month, if you're watching this on demand, put your Ignite predictions in the chat, put them in the comment section on LinkedIn and YouTube, and we'll scroll through your comments as well and see, who guessed right. And then we'll check and see if any of those people work at Microsoft, if they leaked. So, but I think that does it for this one. Again, I've got a meeting to get to that I'm 2 minutes late for. So I think we just end it out here, bud.
Yep, that sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend and a great next month. We will see you in late October after Microsoft Ignite. All right. Take care, everybody.
See you later.